Today we'll be talking about exponent rules, and that's your title, and we're in particular talking about only these two, power rule and product rule, which probably makes no sense right now, but it will in a little bit. So here are the two different rules that we'll be talking about. Okay? First is the power rule. Okay? So power, if you remember, is just another word for exponent. I'm just going to write the word exponent right there. Power and exponent, they're the same thing. So power rule means that when you have a power of a power, and what that means, power of a power, I'll put it up here, basically means that you have an exponent on top of an exponent. That's what that means, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second, so that'll make it more sense. So when you have a power of a power, you multiply your exponents. And I'll show you how we're going to do this in a second. You multiply your exponents. Okay? So for example, a power rule looks like this. So you might have something like this. So I have some exponents, right? But then there's another exponent like on top of them. An exponent of an exponent. Okay? We'll look at it. But here's an important thing to remember. Okay? The important thing you have to remember is you have to treat coefficients the same. What does that mean? Well, I'll explain in a little bit. Basically, you have to multiply your exponents, but you don't multiply your coefficients, you treat them the same. So if there was like a 2 here, you wouldn't multiply 2 and 3, you would do 2 to the third power, which we'll get to in a second. Okay? So, let's look at examples. We have 3 on this page. Let's do this one first. Pretty simple. Let me get my calculator. I'll need it for this one. Example. So, I have an exponent on top of these exponents, right? So all I have to do, and you can sometimes we write it like a distributing, because it's kind of the same thing, is we multiply those numbers. So I write x here, and 3 times 2 is 6, and then I write my y here, and 3 times 4 is 12. Okay? The reason I get this, you don't have to write this, and by the way, this is your answer. Simple, right? Is if I had x squared 3 times, so if I wrote x squared, x squared, x squared, I have 2, 3, 4, 5, I have 6 x's. That's where it comes from. All I have to do is multiply. Okay? Example 2. Pause and write down. On this one, though, I do have to multiply my exponents, but I have to treat my numbers the same. So don't do 3 times 2. You have to treat your numbers the same. You have to do 3 squared. So 3 squared is 9, and then I multiply my exponents. So A, 2 times 5 is 10, and then B, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay? So you have to treat the coefficients the same. So when I put treat coefficients the same, the numbers in front, you don't multiply them, you only multiply the exponents. Okay? And that's it. Simple, 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 simple. Option 3 is where it looks like this. Okay? Pause and write down. So even though I have this division bar here, you're still making that 3 go to everything. Okay? But don't do 4 times 3, okay? Because it's a big number, you treat it like normal. 4 to the third power. So you can get your calculator. 4 exponent 3. Hit enter. And you get 64. So you're going to put 64. Put my B. And then I multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. I put my division bar, I put my C. 3 times 5 is 15. That's all you're doing. You're treating the big numbers like normal, like you already know how to do, and then all you're doing is you're multiplying those exponents. So that is power rule. Okay? The second rule we do is product rule. So product rule, product, if you don't remember, that means multiply. Okay, this is the rule when you're multiplying. So the rule is, when you are multiplying, you add your exponents. Okay? So When you have an exponent on an exponent, you multiply them. When you're multiplying, you add your exponents, okay? But yet again, remember, key thing everyone always forgets is you need to treat your coefficients. How did I word it here? I'm sorry. Treat your coefficients the same. Meaning don't add these little exponent rules on them. Treat them like you normally would. Okay? Don't add stuff. So we're going to add when we multiply. So, pause right down. You have a little, that dot means multiplication. So you're multiplying, all you do is you add your exponents. But if you have x's and y's, you can only add your x's together and your y's together. So let's deal with our x's first. How many x's do we have? 2 and 5. So 2 plus 5 is 7. And then I'm going to add my y's together. 4 plus 3 is also 7. And that's it. You just add them up. Put them side by side means multiplied. And there you go. Pause and write this one down. This is also multiplication, even though there are parentheses, because side by side means multiplied. So yet again, your coefficients, your numbers in front, you need to treat like normal. You need to multiply them. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? But then we're going to add our exponents. So I have a here and a here. So 3 plus 5 is 8. So a to the 8. That's an a, by the way. And then I have a b. 2 plus nothing. There's nothing here, right? So 2 plus nothing is just 2. You just box it all up. So all you're doing, you're multiplying your big numbers and then adding your exponents. What if there's a whole bunch of stuff? Pause and write it down. Okay? So we're still multiplying. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to treat those coefficients, those big numbers, we're going to treat them the same. 3 times 2 times 10. So you could do this in the calculator, just 3 times 2 times 10, or 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 times 10 is 60. And then I have C's and D's. So I'm going to put a C here, and then I add them up. 4 plus, that's a 3 if you can't tell. 4 plus 3, and then real quick here, see how there's no exponent? If there is no exponent, you're going to put a 1 there. Okay? Because that is like one little C there. So 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So I get a little 8 there. Then I put my D. 2 plus, yet again, if there is no exponent, it's a 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, and then there's none, so it would be 3. Okay? So you're just putting it together. Now let's mix them all up so you remember your rules. Okay? Mix them up. So here's your first example. Mix them up. Am I multiplying here, or do I have a power of a power, an exponent of an exponent? Well, the exponent is on top of all the other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and make my little things here. But don't do 3 times 4. Remember, you need to do 3 to the 4th power. So 3 exponent 4 is 81. So you do 81, and then x, and then remember, power, we multiply. 4 times 5 is 20. Bring my y down. If there is no exponent, the exponent's 1. So 4 times 1 is 4. Done. Easy peasy. Okay? Alright, on this one, now I'm multiplying. So you multiply your coefficients like normal. 6 times 4 is 24. And then we add our exponents. So I have an x here. There's 2 x's here, but there are no x's here. Don't add up 2 and 5 because that's an x and that's not. So 2 plus nothing is just 2. And then I have my y here. And then nothing plus 5 is just 5. That's it. Okay? Yet again here, am I doing power rule or product rule? They're side by side, so it's multiplied. So when you multiply, you add your exponents. But we're going to multiply our big numbers first, our coefficients. Negative 2 times 5 in your head or in the calculator is negative 10. And then I have b here. There's 5 b's, but there's no b's over here, so I'll put 5. C. There is 1 c here and 2 here, so 1 plus 2 is 3. And then d. There's no d's here, but there are 8 here, so nothing plus 8 is 8. Whoop. There you go. So I just multiplied by big numbers and added up my exponents. And just FYI, we tend to write these things in alphabetical order. So like B, C, D. Okay? Here's my last one. Write it down. So now I have product rule. I have an exponent on top of exponents. So that 3 has to go to all the exponents. Okay? But don't do 2 times 3, 2 to the third power. So calculator 2 exponent 3, and we get 8. So 8. Good. I have x, and then I just multiply. 3 times 5 is 15. Y. 3 times 2 is 6. Over. My z comes down. 3 times 3 is 9. And that's it. We're going to look at one word problem, and then we're done. Go ahead. You don't have to copy it word for word, but I want you to write down the gist of this. Pause if you need to. What is the area of a rectangle with a length of, that says 3a squared b, and a width of 4ab to the 5th? So that's a 5 and that's a 3, so you can't see. Or that's a 2, I'm sorry, 2 and a 5. Okay, so I have a rectangle, and one side is 3a squared b, and the other side is 4ab to the 5th. And this says area. Area is length times width, right? So I need to multiply these two things together. Well, when I multiply my big numbers, my 4 and my 3. So 3 times 4 is 12. And then I add my exponents. So I have an a here. 2 plus, if there isn't anything, it's a 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. And then I put my b. And then there is no exponent here, so it's a 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Okay? That is the answer, but since I'm asking a question, my answer needs to be a sentence. So the area is 12a3 b6. Okay? Done and done. Those are your first two rules. So go ahead and get started.